We call this meeting, January meeting of Lenoir County Board of Education, to order. We will turn over to Ms. Lynch for the invocation.
Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interest of our young people. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is the approval of the agenda for this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Hill, second by Mr. Smith. Any other discussion concerning the agenda? And all in favor, raise your right hand. The agenda for tonight is approved. The next item, due to a technical failure in videotaping last month, we need to approve formal written minutes for last month. So those are before the board.
Motion to approve minutes.
December 1st, 2014 minutes as presented.
All right, motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Hill. Any discussion, amendments, changes to the minutes? And all in favor, raise your right hand. The minutes from last meeting are approved. Next item is the board chair comments. I certainly want to welcome everyone back after the holidays. We hope you had a happy and safe holiday season. But now it's time for us to get back to work. The board, we've been in the process of organizing our subcommittees. We do have some announcements about those. We have 6 standing subcommittees under the board. This year, the first one will be the Personnel Committee, and Mr. Anderson and myself have agreed to serve on the Personnel Committee for this year. The next one is the Capital Outlay or Capital Improvements Committee. Mr. Nobles and Mr. Davis have agreed to serve on that committee. We thank them for that. The next item is the Budget Committee. Mr. Nobles, Mr. Anderson, and myself have agreed to serve on the Budget Committee for this year. The next item is the Policy Committee. And that committee will consist of Mr. King and Mr. Smith, who both agreed to serve on that committee. The next item is a continuation of our School Improvement Task Force. That'll be the same 3 board members as last year. Mr. Hill serves on that. Mr. Smith and myself all serve on the School Improvement Task Force. Our last committee, I think, is a new committee for us, but one that's certainly needed, Legislative Affairs Committee. That's going to be Mr. Hill and Mr. Smith have agreed to serve on that committee. So I certainly thank all my board members who have agreed to serve on these various committees for the next year. Next item I'd like to address, we had a community meeting at Rochelle School in December. I was able to attend that meeting. Also, Mr. Hill was there, Mr. Anderson was there, and Mr. Smith from our board all attended that community meeting. I want to start off by thanking Ms. Maya Swinson. I don't think she's here tonight, but we thank her for organizing that meeting and making her presentation. I have said for a long time that in today's educational system, parents have choices about what they do with their children. There's a lot of choices out there, and the way our legislature is going, there's going to continue to be a lot of choices out there. They're looking at virtual schools this year, online schools. We've still got charter schools, private schools, home schools. As our superintendent is often saying, we're not a monopoly, and we have to realize that. We're not the only game in town. Now, I believe we are the best game in town, but we're not the only one, and we have to be conscious of that. If we want to stay the best, we have to make an educational product that people want, and we have to be responsive to our community, and we have to listen when people have concerns. One thing I think was very clear from the meeting at Rochelle is there's a lot of members of our community that are very concerned. and care a lot about Rochelle. They want to see that school succeed, and they were willing to come out and be heard about it. So tonight, I'm going to ask Dr. Mozingo to create a special subcommittee of our School Improvement Task Force, specifically to look into the concerns that were voiced about Rochelle Middle School. Based on this subcommittee, it's my hope that the task force will give a report back to the board on whether there's a problem at Rochelle. Is it a perception problem? Is it a reality problem? Is it a combination of both? Or if there's anything that we as a board need to be doing. And we look forward to having that report. Dr. Mozingo will give you the dates in just a moment when the School Improvement Task Force will be meeting again. So we look forward to getting that back. The last item I had is I did have an opportunity to go with our digital learning team to a distribution at one of our elementary schools. I spent the morning watching the iPads be given out. It was really exciting. The thing that really jumped out to me, the students were very excited. You could see that. But the thing that I really noticed was the teachers were very excited to get these tools. And the more that I think about it, the last couple of years, our teachers have had it pretty tough. With a lot of the legislative changes that have come down, they've been asked to do more and more work in larger classes with less resources than they've ever had to do before. And when we gave them these tools for their classroom, we weren't just giving them a tool, we were showing them that we believe in what they're doing. And I really believe in the last 2 months, I have had more teachers come up to me smiling than I have seen in the last 2 years. So if you haven't been by one of our elementary schools lately, you should stop by and see what's going on. Because there is a lot of energy, it's a lot of enthusiasm, and it just, for me, it was just really great to see what's going on. So we would certainly invite any of the public, the community, to stop by, talk to the principal, take a look around the schools, because there's some exciting things going on. Our next item is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On December 9th, the Neuse Regional Library presented awards to the Friends of the Library Young Poets Contest 2014 winners. They are, in 4th grade, first place, Briley Ryan Taylor from Pink Hill Elementary. Second place was Jeremy T. Huffman from Moss Hill Elementary. In 3rd place was Alexander Pridgeon from Moss Hill Elementary. And 4th place, Luke Cannon from Banks Elementary. In 5th grade, we had in 2nd place Azia Brookman from Banks Elementary. Also, 24 mini grants from the Lenoir County Education Foundation were awarded to 30 LCPS teachers in December. The total value of the grants was more than $10,000. 13 grants were awarded to Pink Hill Elementary, 4 to Rochelle, 3 to Contentnia Savannah, 2 to Southeast Elementary, and 1 each to Northwest and North Lenoir High. The 4 Rochelle grants were directly sponsored by 4 businesses: Walgreens, Coastal Connections Marketing, Swenson Funeral Home, and the law firm of Perry & Perry. 2 LCPS students won statewide awards in contests sponsored by the North Carolina Association of School Administrators as part of the Every Child's Chance, Every Community's Future campaign on behalf of public education. Ethan J. Gonzalez, a 4th grader at Pink Hill Elementary School, won 2nd place in the grade 3 through 5 poster contest, and Kelly Sullivan, a 6th grader at Frank Middle School, won 6th place in the grade 6-8 essay contest. Garrett Yarborough, a North Lenoir High School student, has been selected as a semi-finalist for the prestigious North Carolina State Park Scholarship, a 4-year scholarship valued at $86,000, including tuition, travel, and personal expenses. Congratulations to Garrett. Rachel Jones of Kinston High School and Evan Kramer of North Lenoir High School are semifinalists for the Moorhead Kane scholarships to UNC. Congratulations to Rachel Jones and Evan Kramer for those very prestigious awards also. Mr. Sargent mentioned the School System Improvement Task Force. Now that we're finished with rolling out the iPads, we are going to get started back. We still have quite a few items left on that agenda. The School System Improvement Task Force will have its first meeting for this year on Tuesday, January 27th. Be here at the Central Office Boardroom, be from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Mazingo.
Excuse me, I just want to make the correction that Dr. Mazingo said about the little kid, Kennedy Sullivan. He came in second place,
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
not sixth place. Yeah.
Glasses were not working well.
And Kennedy's a girl, just for the record.
I'm sure he wanted to hear second place.
Thank you very much for the correction. And so sorry.
The next item is public comment. And Becky's going to see whether anyone signed up. And I understand no one has signed up to speak to us tonight. But moving on to the presentation portion of the agenda, the first item is Governor's School. Ms. Lynch, the introduction.
I'd like to ask Holly Holder to come forward. Holly is a student at North Lenoir High School, and she had the opportunity this past summer to attend Governor's School. She's here tonight at her request to share with you some of her experiences and her appreciation for the opportunity to attend summer school, Governor's School, this summer. So Holly, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, the members of the Lenoir County Board of Education. As she said, my name is Holly Holder, and I'm a junior at North Lenoir High School. This past summer, several other students of Lenoir County and I attended Governor's School of North Carolina, a 6-week intensive program in which students attend for a certain area while also being exposed to classes on philosophy and worldviews. We're also given free time to attend optional seminars and lectures on topics ranging from feminism to cancer research and everything in between. Tonight, I would like to thank you for making this past summer possible. I know I speak for all those who attended that this summer was a life-changing experience. I personally went to Salem College, which is the West Campus for Governor's School, and if you got into East, that was at Meredith College. The area one for which I attended the Governor's School for was chorus. And this picture captures the moment when all these different girls from all across North Carolina came together, and at this point, the only thing we knew we had in common was a love and a passion for singing. And at this point, we came together for our very first performance as a chorus. Something that Governor's School offers its students is world-renowned professors. On the far left over here is David, our main conductor, and right beside him is Frank, and then me, and then our secondary conductor, Alex. And something very interesting about David is that he has conducted choirs all around the world, and when he was conducting a choir in Japan, he actually influenced the very first male and female choir. So being able to learn from the best and being able to learn from people who are so unbelievably passionate about music makes you love something even more than you already had. My personal favorite memory in the chorus room was one day, David was trying to teach us how to sight sing. And if you do not know what sight singing is, it's basically when you are given a sheet of music and just looking at the notes, you have to sing it perfectly off the top of your head, and you have to know what each note is supposed to sound like. And so we tried using numbers, and we tried using solfege, which is basically looking at the position of that note and thinking, okay, this note is do, or re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And what does do sound like? This is what do sounds like, so this is what I should sing. And David was trying to get the point across that, no, you can't take that much time when you're presented a sheet of music to sight sing. And you have to be able to look at a note and remember the last time you sung that note, what it felt like, and sing it. And then eventually, he just kind of threw his hands up in the air and said, you know what, I could care less if this note was called cow. It will still sound the same. And thus was born the cow major scale. And I'm going to have to do it and sing this for you. This is our cow major scale. And it goes cow, pig, cat, dog, horse, llama, goat, cow. And I kid you not, the second we were given barn animals instead of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, We were given another sheet of music and we sang it perfectly. You have a group of 16 and 17-year-old girls who now know how to sight sing because of Cal Major Scale. And to me, that may seem silly, but it is the perfect example of the new and fresh and innovative way you are taught at Governor School. Something on a more serious note, and definitely an incredibly inspiring note, we were given a song to sing that took excerpts from Anne Frank's diary and put it to music. And we were so unbelievably fortunate enough to have this survivor, Zeb Harrell, come and speak to us on how important this piece of music is. And he actually was liberated from the concentration camp that Anne Frank and her sister died in. And it was the most humbling experience to be able to sing these words to a Holocaust survivor. And at that moment, it clicked for us that you're not just a singer, you're not just a member of a chorus, you're a carrier of music. Songs have such an amazing power to be able to carry messages throughout generations. There's songs hundreds and hundreds of years ago that we can still sing, and that's an amazing, amazing thing. Something more personal that was really great for me is no one from North Lenoir has gotten into chorus since my choral director, Marion Kennedy. And she came to my very last performance at Governor School, and it was just such a touching moment to know that she was proud that she had a student get in her chorus. I wish I had time to tell you about every single Area 1 project, because they were all so incredible, but one that I think really exemplifies what Governor School is about was the art project. Now, at the very end of their entire art program, everyone was taken into a small room, and all the walls were covered with these beautiful, beautiful charcoal drawings that these art students had taken the whole 6 weeks to create. And the art students themselves were sitting in the middle of the classroom, and they were facing outwards and filming everybody else. And then all of a sudden, teachers went up and started ripping the papers. And we, of course, were shocked. I'm like, whoa, what are you doing? And eventually we kind of got the message because the art students weren't doing anything to stop us. And so we went and one by one ripped every single piece of artwork to shreds. And of course, at that moment, we had no idea what we were doing. We were so confused. But then later, the metaphor clicked. And this metaphor, to me, it completely and totally exemplifies what Governor School is about. It shows us that beauty in a tangible and physical form is fleeting. It's not going to last forever. But in our memories, it can be infinite. Our Area 2 class was a philosophy class. And one of my favorite moments in Area 2 was after a week of research, we came in on that Friday dressed up as a philosopher that we were assigned. And for an hour and a half, we actually had a class debate as our philosopher. And only at Governor School would nobody be fazed that there's these kids walking around in togas and beards for the rest of the day because they were dressed up as Aristotle, etc. Area 3 was a class on forming personal opinions and eventually having the confidence to back up those opinions. And the moment in Area 3 that has affected me the most is our very first day. We were standing in the hallway, and before we went into the classroom, we were blindfolded. And we came in, and they led us to individual groups of about 6 students placed around the classroom, and we had a teacher assistant there to ask us questions. And I found that since we had this blindfold on, since I had this shield, and I didn't know who was in my group, I was 100% comfortable in being completely honest with my answers. And there were some deep questions. There was, do you believe in a God? There was, do you feel like you are a part of your school? Do you feel popular, etc.? And I had no worries of saying what I actually felt because these people couldn't see me, therefore they couldn't judge me. And so at the very end of the conversation, we took our blindfolds off. And it was the most eye-opening experience because every single person in my group, in a typical high school setting, I probably wouldn't have even introduced myself to. Because based off of looks, I was thinking, there's no way these people could have the same interests as I have because of what they look like. And people judge based off of looks. And this showed me that we had agreed on almost every single topic. and I have made friends that I couldn't have otherwise made, and that's something that I personally try to bring back with me in school to, as the quote says, don't judge a book by its cover. If you weren't in classes, you were in seminars, and this is just one of the examples of how crowded a seminar could get. This was about a fourth of the classroom. We have people sitting on each other's laps, and sitting on the tables, and this seminar was part of a series on feminism and the story of feminism told through Disney movies. It was quite interesting. When it comes to guest speakers, I could not do this presentation without talking about Daryl Hunt, because whenever you ask anybody who attended Governor School, especially at the West Campus, this is the first name that pops up. This was the moment that everybody realized what Governor School was about. Daryl Hunt was convicted of murder, and he spent 20 years in prison and was not acquitted until a higher court's ruling. And later, the evidence slowly came out that there was actually DNA evidence that he did not commit this crime, but that was never reported. And a lot of the jury members later admitted that race actually had a say in their final conviction. And he and his lawyer came and talked to us, and to hear that they actually were getting hate for a crime that he had never committed, even the lawyer was the moment that we realized that our generation, and they were 100% in support of this, that our generation has the power to change the world and to fight for equality of everybody. And we left this auditorium, every single one of us, wanting to make a difference. And so one of the last days of Governor School, some of my friends went to this bench out at Salem that says make a difference, and that's what Governor School teaches you. It teaches you to go out and make a difference. And if you were having free time, some of the things you could do, just to share a few, you could walk around Colonial Williamsburg, not Williamsburg, it's like Colonial Williamsburg, but it's Colonial Old Salem. It was in our boundaries, and amazing shops, it was great. You could sing at open mic nights, which I did every single night, and I loved it. You could go out to eat, and this story is interesting. My friends from Horace and I went out to eat one of the last nights, and we actually put our phones in the middle of the table so we could have eye contact and real conversations. And I've never gone out to eat with a teenager who was willing to put their phone in the middle of the table for the entire discussion, and so that was great. You could go to a coffee shop, and I want to apologize to my parents because 90% of my money probably went to this coffee shop. I just put it there every single day. There were masquerade balls and then formals, and this is taken from the last night at Governor School, where the time we had to go back and report to our hall monitor was not until 2 o'clock. And we didn't have to sleep. It's a tradition on the last night of Governor School. If you want to stay up with your friends, you can stay up as long as you stay in your dorm building. And so my friends and I went down to the basement and stayed up. And at 6 o'clock, an amazing Governor School tradition happens where everyone goes out to the tennis court and watches the sunrise. And at that moment, I was knocked out cold. I was so tired. But looking back on it, I realized how incredible it is that you end Governor School not with a sun setting. It's not the end of something. We ended it with a sun rising because we are taking everything we've learned from this experience and we're bringing it back to our home. And we end Governor School. The chorus has ended for the past 10 years with this beautiful song called Wanting Memories. And that's how I kind of want to end this, is the last quote, the very last line that happens at Governor School, which is a summation of the entire experience. It is, I am sitting here wanting memories to teach me to see the beauty in the world through my own eyes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you haven't gotten Holly's autograph, I would recommend that. She is going to be famous one day.
I definitely believe that.
Holly, I hate to tell you, but I don't think there are enough barn animals out there to teach me how to sightsee. But the tip was fun. I don't think you have any apologies to make to your parents because I think they're sitting back there being very, very proud, as all of us are. We have absolutely wonderful students in this school district. Thank you, Holly, for coming and sharing that story with us.
The next item on our agenda Certainly won't be as much fun as that one, but we're having,
May I want to reemphasize what Dr. Mazingo just said. It's students like Holly that make me proud to be a member of this board. I know we've got tons of kids out there that can do the kind of things that Holly did. I just wish we could give all of them the same opportunities. I'd like to see more of our kids our students show to the board and to the community the kind of things they're capable of doing, because I think it's miraculous to me what a 16-year-old, how old are you, Holly?
16.
16. It's miraculous to me what a 16-year-old can do.
You're right. I will make that happen.
next item is update on the ILCPS. Ms. Lynch?
It's time for your monthly ILCPS update. And tonight we have our ILCPS Digital Learning Coordinator, Stacy Colley, and one of our digital specialists from Contentnia Savannah, Katie Benton.
They did say they were singing, right?
And dancing.
Using the cow scale. Set the bar high.
Yes, Holly set the bar high, but they've got a good presentation for you too.
We'd like to say thank you for letting us come and talk to you tonight, and we'd like to introduce our little presentation with a movie that Katie and I made about a dream that a task force, community members, education members, our district education leaders had, and how this dream unfolded. About the journey that has been this ILCPS initiative. The dream of individualized learning through technology has become a reality in our elementary schools. The iPads have become an essential tool in every K-5 classroom. Teachers have fully embraced integrating the iPad into daily instruction. As one third grade teacher stated, the iPads are a blessing. What did we ever do before we had them? And to our amazement, the teachers have really taken off with this initiative. They have been using the Make It Big app for spelling words, sight words, math. They have been having the students scan and create QR codes that link to stories, math problems, websites for research, songs and videos. They've used the Notes app for practicing spelling words and writing essays. They've used Messenger for teacher-student communication. For example, teachers have sent messages to students during the day, "You're doing an amazing job, you did awesome on that test." They've used Google Maps to research landforms and locate cities that students are studying. The camera feature has been used to do partner reading, presentations, interviews. Students have completed several scavenger hunts using the camera. The clock app has even been used to look at times around the world and set alarms for various purposes, such as lunch and other classes. Accelerated Reader and Accelerated Math, which are programs that each school has, have been used through the iPads now fully. Teachers and parents are reporting a dramatic increase in student engagement. Students are enthusiastic about completing assignments in this new and digital way. One grandparent said, "I've noticed that my grandson is more engaged and excited about learning since the iPads have arrived." Being in this new position, I've had the opportunity to visit classrooms and talk with teachers and students. One teacher reported that her student completed one accelerated math assignment prior to deployment. Since the arrival of the iPads, he's completed at least 5.
Shortly after deployment, principal went to do observations, and she said, in my observations after deployment, I got chills seeing how engaged our students were, especially our at-risk students. This quote, I think, says it all, that we are reaching students, all of them.
So our journey has just begun, so what's next for ILCPS? Apple Professional Development will continue in February for elementary, middle, and high digital learning specialists and digital learning team members. Middle and high digital learning team members will begin to meet monthly to start implementing professional development with teachers in order to prepare them for next year. Elementary digital learning specialists will continue professional development weekly at their schools, and we've called this Tech Tuesday. Teacher expectations have been created and will continue to be updated as more professional development is rolled out. And site visits to schools that have successfully integrated technology will continue.
This parent said, it is so exciting as a parent to see my children so excited about going to school and learning using their iPad, and to know that they will be prepared for their future. As a parent myself of 2 children who are in public schools, they are coming home doing things that I have not taught them to do on the iPad, that are educational, that their teachers in the 3 weeks they've had iPads have taught them, and that means a lot to me as a parent. As you can see in this child's face, the excitement is abounding, and we should all be proud to be a part of this initiative, and that the fact that we're paving the way not only for our children, but for children across the nation. Because as we have come to realize, we are one of the very first to do this at the elementary level. And so we are really setting a precedence in our state. Does anyone have any questions for us?
No, I'd just like to say, I agree with Mr. Sargent said earlier. I had the opportunity to go to banks and follow you all around during the deployment of the iPads and watch those kids' faces, kind of like that one. When they got those iPads, was something to behold. They were just so excited. I think the first thing I think every one of them did was took a selfie. Yeah, so it was really exciting to watch. Thank you all.
To follow up, Mr. Hill, on your comment, we were talking today that next month it might be time to bring some teachers and students in here so that you can actually hear from them what they're doing with these amazing machines that you provided for them. It's taken off much, much faster than any of us anticipated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item is the school grades update. Dr. Mazinga.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last board meeting in December, we discussed the coming grading of schools in an A through F fashion through a performance grading system. And unfortunately, the video cut off somewhere about the time we started this item. I do think this is a very, very important thing that's coming up, so I thought it was worth spending a little time on during this meeting also. In February 5th, we will receive grades, letter grades for each school based on our performance on the tests that are currently being given to our students. In fact, this will be the test that were given 2013-14. This model is roughly based on the Florida model, but as I said before, they didn't really take all of the Florida model because this model does not take into account the number of low-performing students that you have in a district, which does greatly affect your performance. We also believe that the fact that they're using 80% based on the pure grade on the test and only 20% based on growth is backwards. You can't do much about how your students come to you as a teacher. They come as they are. What you can do is provide that growth for them. We think we should be judged on the amount of growth that we provide for our students each year, and think we certainly can excel at that, and think that is a fair way for us to be judged. So we're getting these grades in a system where we do not completely agree with how it's being done. However, in February, all of our schools will receive that grade, such as it is. Okay. We did have some discussion, so if there are any comments, again, I'm sure the video is running tonight, and it will be out there for our public to see so they can better understand what's coming in February as we do have this being rolled out for our schools.
And I'll remind the board, we did pass a resolution at our last meeting which was opposed to this particular system of evaluation, and we had passed that and sent that off last month.
Well, I guess I'll start off since I did last time and the tape's rolling. I believe that I said at the last meeting that I thought this was, and I used the word, and I used it pretty much how I felt. It was dumb. A through F grading scale for a school system makes absolutely no sense to me. How do you say that you're going to score a school on 80% of scores and only 10% of growth? When I think in my mind, I think about education is getting a child to grow. If I came in, now I'm reading at one level, and through the teaching, at the end of the year, I'm reading way above that level, then I think that's what's important, the growth of a student, not how well they test. Everybody don't test well. All adults don't test well. I can say on some things I don't test well. So why would they take part of the model from Florida and not take all of it into effect? And I think that what we've seen being done lately with the public school system, just let me tell you a couple I wrote down. We took away master's pay for teachers. We didn't do it, but they did it. Cut TAs, but you'll hear the saying, well, we didn't cut the TAs, but you cut the funding. So in effect, you actually did cut them. Then you took longevity from teachers. What else are we going to try to take from our teachers that work hard every day in the trenches? I think that some that are making these decisions need to come down to the school systems across the state and actually see the effect that has happened. You're taking TAs out of the classrooms. Well, spend a day in a classroom with second or third graders, by yourself. See how that works out. Be realistic, I remember a few years ago when I was working with the system, we had a chance to it wasn't a good, the reason we did it wasn't good, but the opportunity was something to behold, standing in the classroom with a bunch of third graders. Then, as I recall, last year was the first full year of implementation of Common Core, is that right? That's full year? Mm-hmm. And they're using those scores from last year, is that correct? Mm-hmm. And then we're not really testing Common Core style, for lack of a better term. They're still using multiple choice, is that right?
That's correct.
So why are we being scored on something that's not even fully implemented and not really testable? I don't understand that. Then it doesn't take into account, as Dr. Mazingo has said, social or economical status of some of our students. Some students are disadvantaged. They don't have the advantages that other kids have to actually have maybe a computer or different things. Not to say that our disadvantaged kids can't learn, and they can, and some of them are very smart. But I believe statistics show that people that have more, resources actually do better in school. And that wasn't taken into account. Then the other thing was that, I really fear that the public is going to get the wrong picture of what our schools look like because of this A through F grade. Yep. The public's not going to get a true picture or accurate picture of what our schools actually look like. You can see on the presentations that we just looked at, the digital learning. That's great. But that's not what people are going to see when they go on the web and they're going to look at the scores of the schools and decide whether I want to move to that district or if I want to move there. They're going to look at the scores. Oh, wow, that school got an F. And none of us going to that. That's reality. That's what people do. They don't come in and look at what you are actually doing. They look at how you are graded. And I don't think that's fair. And when people move in, and they do take into account, they go online and they research your school districts, and they see how you perform, and they make part of their decision based on if they're going to move to that area or not. And to me, that this A through F thing is just, I just say it's just dumb to me. I mean, I could probably think of a better, more educated way to say it, but I just like to put it out there where everybody can understand what I'm saying. And I think everybody understands that word. And I'm just going to say this because people that know me, y'all know I pretty much say what I think. I think there's an agenda, and I think it's pushed towards the public school system. What else can we do to make the public school system fair? Okay, well, we put a grading system out there that's not fair. You don't get an accurate picture, well, they're not doing well. You've taken away a lot of teachers' incentives for teaching. How do you tell teachers that it's not important to get more education? You say, I'm not going to pay you for a master's. It's not important for you to get more education. So longevity, things that we've had in place for years. So you're taking away you're lowering the morale of the teachers. You're pushing these other things out. And to me, it looks like it's just a way to make us look bad. But I would like to encourage the parents not to believe what you actually seeing in the scores. I would encourage you to go to the schools and look and see what's happening on the inside of the schools. Not judge on what the grade that you're probably going to see that's going to come out. Go in the schools, see the learning. Go to the elementary schools, see the digital learning, see the kids engaged, see the teachers, teaching and working, and look at that, and not look at what these scores are going to actually portray that are actually not accurate. And I think that's all I got to say about it.
I think as Ms. Holder taught us earlier, we shouldn't judge people by their appearance. And I think I agree with Mr. Smith, this is absolutely an attempt by the General Assembly to put labels on schools. And the bottom line to me, and I think to a lot of our board members, is this is just not going to be accurate representation of who we are. And we want the public to know that.
Mr. Sergeant, also, I'm going to agree with you and with Mr. Smith. I said this last month too. Where people don't realize that there is a movement to do away with public education in North Carolina and the United States. And the only way that we're going to be able to save it is for the people, the citizens of this state and the United States, to have some say-so in it. These parents, when they see these grades from their child's school, they're going to know that their school is better than what this grade says. So in order to combat that, the way we can take action is to contact your legislators and let them have an earful and let them know that what they're doing is wrong, it's not right, it's not accurate, it's not fair, and that the schools actually are doing better than what they want people to believe. And that's what Mr. Smith said, it's about perception. They want us to think that public schools are failing. Not to say that all public schools, are succeeding, that there are always problems, issues, and always room for improvement. But overall, and like I said, I think Ms. Holder is a prime example of what public education does. And I'd like to encourage all the parents to contact your local legislator and let them know how you feel about it.
And I want to once again thank Mr. Hill and Mr. Smith for serving on our Legislative Affairs Committee that we have formed this evening. I'm sure they'll be letting our legislators know how we feel about it.
Might not want to talk to me after they see this.
Any other comments on this issue? Next item on our agenda is the elimination of funding for driver's education. Dr. Mazingo.
Thank you. This is an issue I really wanted to bring before the board in particular, but also the public. As of June 30th, 2015, state funding for driver's education will end unless there is action by the General Assembly. Last year they made driver's education a non-recurring item in the transportation budget, which is where the driver's education funding comes from. It has been something that's always assumed that our young folks can get some driver's training before they get out on the road. And since I have 4 that went through that process, they need all we can give them, quite frankly. It is important, it is essential, as we all know, for the safety of everyone that uses the roads, and particularly for our children. The cost, about 2.5 years ago, we actually changed how we provide driver's education. We went from hiring our own teachers and providing our own cars to contracting the driver's education for the purpose of being able to continue to provide that to our parents and students at no cost. And so far, we have still been able to do that with the state funding that is allotted, even though that funding has been cut. The cost of providing driver's education to a student is currently $198 in Lenoir County. That's the contract we have per student. The state does allow us to charge up to $65 per student currently. Now, they may change that, they may not, they may eliminate that. We really don't know if they'll take any action toward driver's education at all. Currently, that would still leave Lenoir County Public Schools about $100,000 impact on the budget. And I just saw our finance officer shake her head. That's really not going to work out for us. I do want the public to understand, if the legislature allows us to pass this $198 cost on the students, we are going to have to do so. It is something that the state has always funded, and in my opinion, certainly should continue to fund. It is important. It is important as any other kind of education we provide our students, and I think it is not in the well-being of any of us to eliminate this funding. It is something we will have to deal with as the spring goes on, as we look at our budget. It is something that I hope will end up on our legislative agenda as we look toward approaching our legislators with things that we think are important. It is on almost every organization's agenda that I have looked at so far because it is that important. I would encourage you, as you talk to your legislators, and certainly parents out there, if you're watching this or listening, as you talk to your legislators, encourage them to once again fund driver's education for our upcoming young drivers. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Nzingo. I'd also like to point out, and I'm just not sure if it came across clearly, we are mandated by state law to provide driver's education.
Absolutely true.
Which means we do not have any choice. We have to provide this program, and we're glad to provide this program, but they will not fund it. So they're actually forcing us to take money away from other crucial educational aspects in order to fund it. It just makes no sense that the legislature is mandating us to provide this, but will not provide funding for it. And until people make that heard and make that known, those kind of things are going to continue.
Very true. Thank you.
That's another one.
Next item, speaking of that, is our financial report from Ms. Davis.
The financial report reflects year-to-date activity by providing revenue and expenditure information as to all the sources of funds received and expended by fund and purpose as of December 31st, 2014. Please don't get too excited when you see the fund balance. As of 12/31, December was a short month, so all the bills for December were not paid in December, so that fund balance will be decreasing. May I answer any questions?
Ms. Davis, you've answered this for me before, but there's some people that may be watching or listening that haven't heard an answer. I get hit, if I had $1 for every time I get hit with the question, where is the lottery money going?
Our lottery money goes to bond debt.
Okay, and that bond debt is what we're using to pay off the schools that we built and renovated. Okay,
The new schools.
thank you.
But actually, our legislators use some of the lottery money to
That's what I was going to say.
supplant their budget, yes.
We don't get as
get
much
to that.
lottery money.
Right, we don't get as much as we were supposed to.
That's correct.
That's what I was getting to, thank you.
Yes, some of the lottery money was reallocated into the general fund.
That's absolutely true.
All of it is funneled down to us and goes to
So what the public needs to understand is we're not getting maybe all that we should be getting, if I can put it that way.
How long will the loan money be going to the debt? So people will know how long we're getting these funds from the lottery and they're going towards the debt. How long should they expect this to keep?
It was a 20-year.
20-year bond, so. And it started,
What year?
2006,
6, 7. It was past the 6, wasn't
About midway. We're in some of the highest years for the loan, actually.
okay. I just want people that are listening to understand how long that's going to go on. And once those loans are paid off, then we could use some of that money for other things, right?
That's correct.
And is it right now, even the money we get now doesn't even cover the interest on our bonds? Actually, the county, Lenoir County, has to supplement that to make that payment,
Right.
at least in the highest years.
The bonds were actually purchased on the basis of higher lottery funds and ADM funds, which we no longer receive from the legislature. Yes, we're actually now putting half-cent sales tax money in it, which would come to us for capital needs also into paying off the bond debt, which is why we have very, very low capital improvement funds, and we struggle each year with which projects to fund.
But now, I mean, so I'm not sure I understand, the lottery money that we receive has to go to a capital outlay.
Yes.
Right. Unless, in the case where the legislature took some of the lottery money and then supplanted it for the budget. So our money has to go to capital outlay.
Yeah, and there is some lottery money in the funds we receive, but it's because they put some of the lottery money in the general funds that ends up in the education budget. So it's not a direct funding to us. The money we receive directly from lottery funds does go to the bond debt.
Any other questions for Ms. Davis tonight on the financial report? Having no further questions, we'll move on to the audit report for 2013-2014.
Mr. Doc Davenport, the Bear Parish and Davenport is here tonight, and he'll be presenting the audit report as of June 30, 2014. Turn it over to you. Oh, and I know y'all have PDF copies, but if you would like a hard copy, I do have hard copies if you like one more PDF hard copy.
Thank you.
It is 70 pages.
Based on what I have seen and heard tonight, I fear that my presentation will be at least entertaining in the evening. But
What are you trying to say?
I don't have any smiling faces of employees while they're being audited. They sent some others smile when we told them we were finished, but that was about the only one. I'd like to start by thanking Dr. Mazingo and Lisa and her staff and all the administrators that helped us along the way. This is a culmination of several hundred hours of our work and basically daily work on their part to prepare for us during the year. We recently submitted the audit for the year ended June 30, 2014. This is the bound copy. I think, as I said, you have a PDF of the same information. We submit it to the North Carolina Department of State Treasurer. They review it and approve it, which they have already done. So we're in good standing for this year. Obviously, your primary oversight agency is North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. They play a big role in dealing with any findings or anything of that nature that come up during the audit. So by and large, the audit went very well. We do have a couple of items which we'll touch on. Nothing of any major significance that we haven't discussed before. The audit is basically broken down into two parts. There's a financial component and a compliance component. The compliance part we typically do earlier in the summer and early fall. And basically what happens there, we audit various programs, state and federal funding, to determine whether the school system is complying with the regulations of the grant agencies. And the larger programs, state public school fund at the state level supplies a huge portion of your overall funding. The federal programs we looked at were special education, Race to the Top, Title I, and the Improving Teacher Quality program. At the state level, state public school fund, vocational education, and the pre-kindergarten program. And I'm happy to report that we had no findings attributable directly to any of those programs. We do have one item regarding fixed assets, but that's more general in nature. So that is actually a very good result of an audit when your budget is approaching $75 million. We do operate on a materiality concept. We can't look at every dollar, obviously, that you spend, but we gear our audit towards looking for material non-compliance, material items where you'd be required to pay back funds that weren't spent in accordance with the So happy to report nothing of that nature exists in this audit. Financially, those of you that have been on the board or associated with the board for a while know you've been on quite a roller coaster over the last several years. 5 or 6 years ago, it was kind of a doom and gloom type scenario, but you really dug in budget-wise and have been able to build some fund balance. And this year, we kind of treaded water, but we didn't go backwards. We maintained what we had and built slightly on the fund balance that you had on hand at the beginning of the year. And that, I think, will be very important going forward as you have embarked on your one-to-one initiative. Those lease payments will be new expenses for you, basically over and above, your normal budget. So if you didn't have the fund balance to start with, it would have been very difficult to fund this initiative, I think. So having that was certainly in your favor, and maintaining some of that going forward will be vitally important to keeping this program and others going in the future. As I said, the local funds, which you're able to maintain some type of fund balance in, some had small losses, some small profits, but overall, you're basically in a similar financial position as you were at the beginning of the year. A couple of items I will point out to you. Your overall funding, if you look at all sources, federal, state, local, and other, actually decreased this year and caused your total expenses to decrease by a few percent. But $1 million is pretty significant for North County, and it's actually closer to $2 million. That funding, the expenditure reduction was a direct relation to a reduction in federal funding of about $1 million and state funding of about $1 million. So those, going forward, those items will be crucial. It's often hard to determine what you're going to get from those levels. And, there has been some uncertainty, but the system did encounter reduction this year and was able to withstand it. Didn't build any profits like you've been doing for 3 or 4 years, but didn't go backwards either. So all in all, I think it was a good year for the system. The 2 items that I'd like to discuss concerning more of accounting type internal control issues. One relates to fixed assets, and we did discuss this last year. When we started the audit a few years ago, Dr. Mazingo kind of told me that he felt like, that would be something we deemed them on, and of course we did, but they are aware of the issue, but during the audit, it didn't appear that it had been improved upon to the point where we could remove it from being an audit finding. And basically, what we're looking for is that the system captures its fixed asset purchases, reports them correctly. You've got to depreciate them over their useful life for accounting purposes, and also making sure you safeguard them, keep track of them, etc. They're fully aware of the situation. I think it's just a matter of getting, quite frankly, some time to focus some personnel toward these issues and get things going in the right direction. The other item was concerning some accrued liabilities, and these are what we call balance sheet items. They're amounts that we owe others at any given time, and they primarily relate to payroll deduction items for health insurance and things like that. And basically, what we recommended last year was that we make sure we keep track of these on a monthly basis to make sure they're reported properly and accounted for properly. The balances are materially correct on our balance sheet. And we did notice some improvement in some of these accounts this year. But again, I think more is needed, and I'm hoping that during the upcoming audit, I feel maybe that will be fully corrected. So, hoping Lisa's not really wrong again. But, we have discussed all these matters, and she knows what's. These types of items are certainly not, primary focus in keeping the Department of Public Instruction happy, making sure things are coded properly. That's kind of off to the side from some of that stuff, so it can be deemed less important, but it's still a component of our financial reporting. So we do consider it to be an important aspect. And basically, that's all I've got. I would like to say one other thing. We do have these funds that are maintained by the individual schools that do not run through the central office. And as an auditor, you always feel that there's a bit of a risk, associated with funds that are in many different places, which we call decentralized accounting issues. But this year, I kind of focused on making sure we gave a little feedback to the principals on how their schools were doing. And by and large, they're really doing an excellent job. The staff at the schools, the reporting is, the financial reports are really clean. They seem to do a good job in making sure money is submitted to the school treasurer in a timely manner. The expenses are well documented. So, I'd like to commend them. I see a couple of principals in the audience tonight, but I think that even with the decentralized system, they're really doing well overall in making sure the processes are in place and they bring all the boxes to our office every year for audit, and they get them. Everybody got them there on time, which helps us tremendously. So just like to thank everyone again for their help in the audit, and be happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
I would like to ask Ms. Davis, these two findings, this is the second year in a row for those. You need to let us know what kind of help you need to eliminate those.
Oh, you should have asked me.
But this is 2 years running. I think it'd be a shame to come back a third year we're dealing with the same
I
thing.
have to say, the fixed assets has been ongoing. That has been ongoing.
But I mean in terms of software or program or whatever it is that can help in that area. But 2 years running.
I think we've made improvements. It's the procedures are there. It's just a matter of having the personnel to implement.
And I'll be very honest with you, they last year, we really did work on a system and a process, and we thought we had the personnel assigned to this. We had an individual with some unusual medical illness related absences that put us behind on getting this implemented. Other things came in front of this in terms of the use of their time. We really think that this year we can make a big difference in the fixed assets and make Doc happy. And he's hard to make happy with fixed assets, I'll tell you. Not the first time we've worked yet. All in all, I'd really like to thank Ms. Lisa Davis, our finance officer, for a job extremely well done. This is an outstanding audit. even though we have a couple of things to work on. We know that, we'll get them done. But for no findings, it's a fairly rare audit where you come in and you don't have anything to report that's finding. Some recommendations on the accounting, some things we need to do, certainly. But they did a great job for us. A lot of money runs through there. They're not overstaffed. And they take every person, every minute, every position, make it count, and they do a good job accounting for the funds as they should. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I was glad to hear, I believe, a couple of years ago, there was something about the schools reporting, receiving in a timely manner was a finding, I believe. So I was glad to hear that now they're all doing extremely well with that reporting. So that was good to hear.
Minor, very minor issues, but by and large, teachers, it's not really their top priority, but it has to be made a priority by someone so that they understand that it is. And they're really doing some improvement there.
I would like to say the finance officer is working with the bookkeepers very closely. They provide training for them, and I do think we've improved that greatly.
Yeah, for a member that's been on the board forever. I have seen a great change, and Walt, as far as that, I've seen that much worse, and they've worked very well, I think, in straightening this out. So to hear the comptroller give us that kind of recommendation, I think they did an outstanding job.
Well, in dealing with auditors every year, I know they're kind of like, well, I better be careful what I say. You can't make them happy all the time. They're going to find something.
They really don't want to be happy.
No, they don't want to be happy. But these aren't really what you consider. These don't send up red flags, these type of things.
Well, no, I mean, typically you get a letter from the Department of State Treasury, but when you really get concerned, it's when you have to repay funds for expenditures that are not allowable to a grant program. That's when it really hits your pocket. But these are things that are fixable.
Right. And I'm not trying to make excuses, or take up, but yeah, these are the kind of things that can be corrected. Trying to pay back money can be a little difficult sometimes. I'd like to also thank Ms. Davis and commend her. I know there are a lot of people that stand behind Ms. Davis and do a lot of work, but as one of those that have been here forever, and I appreciate the opportunity to have been here forever, I've seen some of those up and downs that Doc's talking about, and I believe the reason that where we are today is, and it's not just one. I mean, there's a lot of people. Ms. Davis deserves a lot of the credit.
I would agree.
To get us where we are today.
Any other questions for Doc? Go away, stay away for a while.
Certainly, thank you for your time and working with us on the audit report.
Thank you.
Next item is Ms. Davis, the budget calendar for 2015-2016.
You received a budget timeline. This has been established for the 2015-16 budgeting process. And if you'll note the dates in bold, these are the dates that are required by the North Carolina General Statutes. We are supposed to have a budget. We should have a budget, a planning budget anyway, in place by May 1st. It has been approved by our Board of Education. May 15th, it has to be presented to the county commissioners. And by July 1st, the county should have us our appropriations sent to us. And we should have some kind of either a budget resolution or interim budget in place by July 1st. They are the main dates that we have to make sure that we stay on.
As you see, we'll be starting to work right away on this. It is the budget season now, and I do appreciate the board members that are willing to serve on this committee. It's very important that we use our money in the best manner that we can to support our teachers and provide the education to our students. So.
Any questions about the budget calendar for this year? All right. Thank you, Ms. Davis. Why don't you stay and do the budget amendment number 2, first action item for the night.
This budget amendment increases the state funds due to charter school ADM adjustments, substitute reimbursements, EC headcount transfers, and group home enrollment, increase in technology funds, and the final allotment for the transportation funds. The other local funds increased due to additional funding from the South Lenoir High School AG grant, or AG grant, I'm sorry, it's the AG grant, the Medicaid administration reimbursement, E-rate, microeducation, and autism funds. May I answer any questions?
Motion to approve budget amendment number 2 as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Hill,
Second.
second by Mr. Anderson. Any further discussion about the budget amendment number 2? No further discussion, we'll call it for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Budget amendment passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Davis. The next item is the instructional calendar for this year. Ms. Lynch.
You have as your attachment to this agenda item the recommendation for the instructional calendar for the school year 2015-16. A calendar committee made up of representatives from each school had input into the development of this calendar, and you'll see that it's very, very similar to this year's calendar. Very few changes were made. All school system staff members had the opportunity to vote on a choice of 4 calendars, and this was the overwhelming choice. You can see that school starts on August 24th for students and ends on June 10th for students. There are 11 holidays, 14 work days, and 10 vacation days, all required by law. There are also 2 non-instructional days, the yellow end days. There's one at the end of March and the other at the beginning of April. On these days, students and 10-month employees do not attend school. 11 and 12-month employees have the option to use leave if they choose to do so. These days are used for makeup days if needed, and they also lengthen the spring break, which avoids students returning to school at the end of a week during a holiday. There are also 4 early release days scheduled for staff development in the calendar. It's our recommendation to the board to approve this calendar, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have regarding the calendar.
So spring break this year, they get out on, this is next year.
This is 2016.
So let's not confuse everybody, but it'll be a longer spring break than normal next year.
It's,
From a Wednesday through the full
that's
next
how it
week.
is this year, too.
Is that how
It'll
it
be
is
that way this year, yes.
Okay. So that's not a change.
No.
Yeah, this is very, very similar to the calendar we have this year, which everyone has really enjoyed, actually.
I'd like to commend you all on these calendars because I've seen some districts who make their kids go back on a Friday after a vacation, which is usually isn't good.
It's not good for
Like it.
attendance
Yeah.
purposes.
It's not the best decision instructionally, for sure.
Is it my understanding that you have multiple choices and they pick the one they like the best, and this was the one that was
Overwhelmingly.
overwhelming?
Yes.
Okay.
And there were very, very few differences between the 4 calendars.
All right. Motion to approve the 2015-16 instructional calendar as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Hill. Second by Mr. Davis. You got there first. Any further discussion about the instructional calendar? As for all in favor, raise your right hand. The calendar is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Next matter is a motion to go into closed session.
I move that the Lenoir County Board of Education go into closed session in Lenoir County General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee.
Motion made by Mr. Hill. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nobles. All in favor going into closed session, raise your right hand. We are now in closed session.
Just don't seem like that.
We are back in open session. The next item is the personnel report with the addendum.
Move to approve.
All right, motion's been made by Mr. Anderson to approve the personnel report with the addendum. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hill. All in favor, raise your right hand. Personnel report and addendum are approved. Next matter.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Anderson. Second. Second by Mr. Smith. All in favor, adjourn. We are now adjourned.